Good morning and welcome to Sriel for the British Open National Championship final day. Here we are at this beautiful airfield in Northamptonshire. Not a cloud in the sky. The first pilot has launched. We are doing the final sequence at the advanced category, and after that we will be doing the final sequence of the unlimited category. So these are the top pilots in the UK with some of the top pilots from around the world competing for the title of Open Champion. Our first pilot of today is Stephen Bakhtiari, who is flying an XA-41. Unusual all-carbon aircraft, single seat, super maneuverable, and really a beast of a machine, which Stephen is getting to grips with. He's been flying aerobatics for a number of years and is currently looking very good leading the advanced category, and this final sequence could see him claim the crown as the national champion at the advanced level, the British champion. But it all depends on this final sequence. Is he gonna do a good job? It's a very tricky technical sequence. You can hear him taking off now. And there's a lot of gotchas in this one. I will talk you through it. But there's a lot that could go wrong. So the pilots really have to be on it today. But we've got absolutely perfect conditions, just a gentle zephyr of a wind straight down the box, so straight down the axis, the main axis, with a little bit, with no clouds at all getting in the way, and we have a whole series of judges waiting for the pilot to enter the box. But of course, as has happened all the way through this competition, the very first thing the pilot has to do, you can hear him now coming past, is a low line. So that is Steve cruising through the box at the disqualification height, the low. So this is the height at which pilots are not allowed to fly any lower. And it's very important to do this at the beginning of the day so the judges can see where that level is, so that if anybody flies below that level, they are asked to stop and potentially disqualified. So it's a very important safety feature. First pilot, and he's just doing a little wing wag when he gets to the middle of the box. There it is. And at the end of the box, and he will do it at the front, the middle and the back of the box, so that the judges have a good idea of where that low line is. So here he comes back, doing the low line at the back of the box. Some pilots don't like being first up because you have to do this extra bit of flying, and you don't get to see what the wind's doing. But seeing as there's no wind today, actually it's not bad to be first up, and this gives you a little bit more time in the aircraft to get yourself comfortable. So Steve has completed the low lines, so now he'll be getting into his part of the flight. He'll do his safety rolls and warm-up figures to make sure that both he and his plane are properly set up for the flight. Steve's also a display pilot. He's recently got his display authorization, so you may see him crop up in the odd air show here and there in this wonderful machine. As I said, all carbon, matte grey, very nice machine. for those of you who are watching aerobatics maybe for the first time, a cloudless sky with only a breath of wind over a perfect airfield is not something that ever happens. This is about as unusual as it gets in the UK. So we're absolutely delighted that the weather gods have decided to bless us with this kind of weather right when we're doing the British Open Championship. It's what we hope for, and every now and then it turns up, so we're very delighted with that. So here is Steve coming to do his warm-up figure. There's that first half roll, and then he's pushing to check that his straps are properly tightened. So I think I said yesterday, he tightens them until his legs start turning blue when he's on the ground, and then after a couple of pushes in the air like that, he'll find that there's still some room, and so he could ratchet it down even further. So that is what those half rolls are for. Make sure there's nothing loose in the cockpit, make sure your straps are tight. He will now be checking that the engine's behaving, all the temperatures and pressures are correct, and setting up the RPM the way he wants it, and also looking at the box, because the box is this imaginary kilometre cube in the air from the low line upwards, in which all the sequence has to take place, perfectly aligned with the axes. So now he's tipping in to do a warm-up figure. Pull some G, get his body warmed up, nice vertical. And that is called a Humpty Bump, when you just pull over at the top and go straight back down again. Nice, long, straight line. He's looking, am I vertical? What does the ground look like? He's just checking his reference points. And now, having done that, he will reposition himself. He'll do a couple of hard G pulls just to get his G muscles warmed up. That's why he's doing those tight turns. And then he will be repositioning to get the right height and the right place to start this quite technical, complex sequence. And it actually starts with, it's got some quite exotic figures. I wouldn't say exotic, oh, unusual. The first one is a tail slide. So the first thing that Steve will be doing is pointing the aircraft straight up and then waiting until it flies backwards. And he needs to fly it backwards at least a fuselage length before it changes ends. And it needs to change ends with the canopy up. So there's always a little bit of a cheat at the top. And we'll see if we can spot that. But here he comes, Steve Bakhtiari in the XA41 for the final unknown, wing rocks, to show that he is starting. Come on, Steve. Dead center of the box for the tail slide. Straight up, nice vertical line, and he'll be now pulling back the power, but making sure that doesn't give him any twisting moment. Power off, sliding backwards, very nicely done, no wobbles. That is a tail slide. Coming out, and he will be climbing up to the 45 for a stall turn. So up to the 45 half roll, and then push up, and then a quarter roll once he's on the straight line, and then the stall turn. And then on the way down, nice straight line with 2/8 of a roll to get back onto the A axis. Clean roll 2, there they are. Now he'll be entering a P loop, so go straight up, 2 quarter rolls, and then pull round to create a P shape in the sky, but with multiple rolls on the exit, so quite tricky. And he needs to make this loop a nice shape. Don't pinch it, float at the top, pull round, and then he's got 1.5 roll followed by 4 of 8. And he's got to keep it on axis. So here we go. Where's the 1.5? 1.5 and 4 of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nice. Now straight up into a 45. He's getting a bit right and a half flick. nicely done. Hold the line and then pull back round, and then 2 half rolls on the 45 down. He's gone quite far right, so that may be a bit of an issue, but not too bad. So now he's back in, and he's got to set himself up for the spin. So he's got to find the right place, and he's doing that a little bit early, which is good, because the spin then, and he'll pull over, and it's an inverted 1.5 spin. So he goes upside down, cuts the engine, and then will spin 1.5. So he's facing in the same direction of travel. 1.5, nicely done. Now he pulls around, big G pull here, probably about 8G, big pull, and then be a 1.5 flick at the top. Got to keep it on axis, followed by 2 quarter rolls. 1.5, nicely done. 2 quarter rolls, 1, 2 to inverted. Then he'll pull down into a big looping section. Now he's waiting until he pulls into that because he wants to position it correctly, because this big long looping section, and he does another half roll and pulls round, goes into a square loop. So he will be doing a square loop from inverted. He'll push up, push over the top, and do a full flick. So this is a square loop. So he's going to do a half roll to inverted, and now a square loop, which he wants to position dead in front of the judges. This is good positioning, straight up. Then he's got to do a nice sharp corner, and the sides have all got to be the same length. So there's the top, and he's got to count to get the length right. Full flick, nicely done, and count to make sure that the line is the same length across the top as it is down the side. So I think he's done a pretty, and then a push out at the bottom of this, which is a -6G there. Whoa, go on, Steve. And then another push up for a 2 of 8 into a stall turn. 2 of 8. He's doing a very good job of this. This is looking very clean. Very clean indeed. Come on, Steve. It's a nice stall turn, and then a 3/4 flick on the way down. Very good. Now a complex maneuver. He's got to do 3/4 roll followed by 3/4 rolls. 3/4, and then 1, 2, 3, and pull up round and do a double roll one way and a full roll the other way. But he's got to have enough speed to do it without dipping the nose. 1, 2, and then a full roll. Nicely done. Now another push up, but into a repositioning Humpty Bump. So he's pushing up, and he's going to pull round at the top, and then a 1/4 roll on the bottom. Is he going to go towards or away? He's going to come towards. Yes, he is towards, just to reposition himself a little bit closer to the judges, and then he'll do another 1/4 roll to get himself back on the A-axis and push over. He's got to make sure that the line lengths are balanced. Push over, and now he's quite high, and he's got to do 2 half rolls and then a negative push down. So from 2 half rolls, he's positioning himself, and now he'll push down. Got to keep the power back. So, and then 4 half rolls at the bottom. So he's going quite a lot of G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, another half roll and pull up. And now he's setting himself up for a 360-degree rolling circle at 60 degrees per half roll. This is pretty complex from inverted. He's got to roll inside and make a complete 360-degree circle whilst rolling the aircraft 3 times. Slightly slowed down there, but actually that is an extremely good job. Extremely good job, Steve. Well, I personally would say that is the flight to beat. I did not see any gross errors. It was nicely positioned. I thought that was an absolutely outstanding job from Steve, who has really got better and better through this contest. He's got the measure of that machine, and he's doing a fabulous job. So, yes, impressive piece of flying there from Steve Bakhtiari. Looking to be the national champion at advanced this year. We will see what his competitors can come up with. So Steve will be cooling his cylinders down, calling the tower, telling them that his sequence is complete, which is the cue for the next competitor to line up and take off. So at any point now, we will be expecting the dulcet sounds of an Edge 360, Paul Elvidge at the controls in his 4-cylinder Edge 360, to come and show us what he can make of that rather complex sequence. So I think that's him now, just taking off, whilst Steve lands behind him, probably a little bit close, but there you go. These pilots know what they're doing. And there is Paul Elvidge in this actually experimental American aircraft, home-built, very fast-rolling carbon-winged aircraft, but with unlike all the other aircraft at the advanced category, this has only got 4 cylinders, 230 horsepower, still very capable aircraft, and particularly at the hands of Paul Elvidge, who does a great job with it. So he will set off now and do his safety rolls and warm-up figures to get himself ready for this rather technical, complex sequence on this outstandingly beautiful day at Sriel in Northamptonshire. So Steve Bakhtiari is backtracking down the runway in his beautiful XA41, having given us a really pretty masterful display of how to tackle a sequence. It's been a very good competition here this week. The weather has been very kind to us. We only had one morning where we had to wait for the clouds to depart, but we've actually managed to get through all sequences as planned, which seldom happens, to be honest. The weather usually interferes. So all the pilots have flown all the unknown sequences that were planned, 3 unknowns for the top 2 levels and 2 unknowns for the lower 2 levels, and which means that we are going to be flying the freestyle element. So that's the smoke and noise, kind of more like display flying. That will actually take place at 5 o'clock tonight. We usually do that on the Sunday, Freestyle Sunday, but we've got plenty of time now, so organisers have agreed that we will put that together at the end of the day today. The 5 pilots will be battling it out with smoke and music to see who can show us their freestyle displays. You can hear in the background that distinctive note of a 4-cylinder engine. Sounds very different to a 6-cylinder engine. Sort of throatier roar. As Paul Elvidge gets himself ready to tip in for this sequence. The final unknown at the advanced category. Paul's a very experienced pilot. He's a team pilot. He will be going to the World Aerobatic Championships in Hungary later on with Steve Bakhtiari as part of the British team. So He wing rocks and tips in for this final unknown at advanced, and starts with a tail slide right in front of the judges, nicely positioned. Can he get it to slide backwards but fall forwards? A little bit of a cheat up there, and it slides backwards nicely, but it falls backwards. So actually he didn't cheat enough. That has gone the wrong way. Looks beautiful, but actually fell the wrong way. So now he needs to go up to 45, half roll, and then push up into the vertical, another quarter roll. So unfortunately, I think that first figure will be zeroed, and he's forgotten the quarter roll at the top. So not a good start for Paul. He'll have zeroed that figure as well, because he then added another roll. Now the P-loop. So very wisely, Mr. Elvidge has wing rocked to say, I've got the first two figures wrong. Let's stop, collect my thoughts, and come back before I get the third figure wrong. So that is a very wise decision. So Paul, these unknowns are very technical, very complex. This is the fourth sequence he's had to fly this week. So not unlikely. So wing rock. So he's going to start at figure 4. Is he going to start at figure 4? Yes, he is. The half flick. And he's going to pull round and then do 2 of 2 on the diving 45. Now he's going to set himself up for the spin. So pulls up, gets some height, levels off inverted, and then he will do a 1.5 negative spin with the big G pull through. So 1.5, slightly over rotated that, and then he's going to pull out. And do a 1.5 flick at the top. 1.5 with a 2 of 4, 2 quarter rolls, and then he'll begin this large kind of figure of 8 looping figure, which will set him up for this rather exotic inverted square loop. So a push square loop. So he'll do a half roll here, and then he'll pull round and get himself enough speed, and he'll roll inverted and then push up, and we're looking for a nice square, even-sided square with a flick roll at the top. So there's the half roll, and then he'll push up past the judges. Yes, he's gone past the judges. He'll push up, do the first line of the square, quite short, and then across the top he has to do a full flick. There it is. And we're looking, and then push down, and then push out inverted. So this is a big push. It's been minus 5 or 6 G. Yep, there you go. And now he needs to push up into a stall turn with 2 8th rolls. 1, 2. First one a little bit short, slightly over, and then come down and do a 3/4 flick on the way down, back onto the A axis. That's good. And then this busy loop up with 3/4 followed by 3/4. 3/4 roll followed by 3 individual quarters, and then pull up and then do a double roll one way and a single roll the other way. So very busy, and he's got to stay and not let the nose drop. 1, 2, and stay on axis. Pretty good job. And now another push up for this kind of repositioning double humpty, it's called, where you go up, do 1 pull over the top, and then do quarter roll, which I'm assuming he'll come towards. Good. And then depth charge, so a big G pull. It's probably 7 G, 6, 7 G, pull up, and then a quarter roll to get back on axis. And then he'll push off the top, flying slow, He'll probably wait a bit before he does that to reposition and make sure he does it in the right place, and he'll do 2 half rolls, and then he'll push down. So there'll be a big negative G at the bottom. So here's the push, and then he'll do 4 half rolls with this big push at the bottom there. 4 half rolls, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then wait and another half roll and pull up, and which is getting himself in position for this 360-degree inverted roller. So he's going to do 6 60-degree turns whilst rolling the aircraft 3 times. So a little bit of a brain in gear moment. There's the first one. 1, 2, and the roll rate slowed down there. 3. Quite technical, lots going on in the cockpit there. He's getting round it. And he's got to end up inverted, going the same way he was going before. Good job. Yep, got there. And then the wing rocks to say, thank you very much. That is my national contest complete. Paul, it's tea and cake for you.
Brought to you by Tele2 IoT.
So it fell the wrong way. So you're going vertical, it needed to fall forwards, and it fell backwards. That then was preying on his mind, and so when he went into the second figure, he missed out a roll. So easy to do that. You're trying not to worry about it, but your brain is going, oh, you messed up the first figure, and then move into the second figure, and it actually trips you up and you forget something. But he very wisely did a wing rock, repositioned and continued. He didn't actually fly the P-loop, which I'm wondering if that was intentional. It's a very difficult figure to fly, especially in his aircraft that doesn't have as much energy as these big 6-cylinder machines. But he's a very capable pilot, so I don't know why he didn't fly the P-loop. As he brings it into land on this lovely runway here at Sywell. And in the meantime, our next competitor, Ben Feiler, who's based in Norway. Or is it Sweden? Oh, Ben, you'll have to tell me later. Has taken off in his 330LX, so it's not his 330LX that he flies, and getting himself set up and ready to have an attempt at this busy, complex sequence. Well, he's actually turned away from the box, which suggests to me that the judges have told him just to hold off for a second, because very often judges need to get the paperwork ready and maybe have a quick discussion about what happened. And I suspect the fact that Paul Elvidge didn't fly the P-loop just needs to make sure that everyone's got that and scored the right figures in the right order. So whilst that's happening, Ben has been asked just to hold off, which is no problem. Big machine, he'll just circle out until he gets the call on the radio that he's allowed to enter the box, and then he will set up with his safety figures and rolls.
Don't forget to mention David Hurd's also going to with the team.
So I think the judge is just calling Ben now to say you can come into the box. So just a brief delay for Chief Judge to make sure that the correct scores are applied to the correct figures. Very important. Got an excellent scoring and judging team here who putting in a huge amount of work to get all these scores correctly assigned and accredited to each pilot. And we are using a tablet-based scoring system which has been developed with our friends in the Spanish aerobatic scene who are here helping us out. And together we're developing a tablet-based scoring system which is why you're able to see scores displayed on the screen through this live stream. It's because they come direct from the judges' tablets, so you are seeing it at the same time that the pilots see it. It's a great system, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of finessing that needs to go on behind the scenes in terms of the getting Wi-Fi out into the corner of a field in the middle of nowhere. So great deal of organisation and planning has to go into that, and it's working well. As we watch Ben Filer do some high G turns, get himself G muscles warmed up, and that characteristically coloured 330LX of Ultimate Aerobatics based at White Waltham. Ben's been training with Pierre as part of the British Aerobatics Foundation. Great young pilot, lots of talent. Let's see what he can do with this pretty technical sequence. So, first wing rock, second wing rock, and he'll be diving in, third wing rock, to give us the tail slide. See if he can keep the canopy up. So he's done it slightly past the judges. Interesting. So now he needs to make sure there's the little cheat. He's got it slightly pushed forward so that when it slides back, yes, it flicks the right way. Rather, it falls the right way. Good job. Very nice tail slide. So now he's got to go up 45. He's probably a little bit right to be doing this. So he probably should have started a little bit the other side of the judges, but nonetheless he's, I think, inside the box, and now he's got to do a quarter roll. A little bit off axis on the push. It's quite disorienting, going from an inverted 45 So now he's got to do 2 of 8 and then come back and set himself up for this busy P-loop. So hopefully right at the judges he will be going vertical, 2 quarter rolls, and then pull round the top of the loop and do 1.5 roll followed by 4/8 of a roll the other way. Nicely on axis, nicely positioned. 1.5 rolls, good. 1, 2, 3, 4 points, that's very good. Now up into this 45-degree banana. Half flick, there it is. He's got to hold the line and then pull it back round without losing too much height and do 2 half rolls on the way back down at 45 degrees. 1, 2, high speed. And now he's got to find the right position to get himself set up for the spin right at the judges, so that the spin is slightly to the judges' right, which is a good position. So he pulls across the top at the correct height to do the spin, usually about 2,500 feet, and it's a 1.5 inverted spin he's got to do. He'll stop this machine flying in just the right spot, and there's the beginning of the spin. Slightly over-rotated, but only minor. Now a big G pull around the bottom, tensity muscles. Pulling round with a 1.5 flick at the top, followed by 2 quarter rolls. There's the 1.5, slight dip in that. 1, 2 quarter rolls, and now he's got to do this big looping, swooping figure of 8 maneuver to set himself up for this square loop. So this looks easy, but it's important to keep it on axis, and it gives the pilot an opportunity A, to relax a bit, but also to reposition, because you can slide round these loops. You can move it to and from the judges if you need to. So he has done a little bit of that, and he's going to set himself up with a half roll for this inverted square loop. There's the half roll. He'll wait the right position to push up. He'll be looking out down the wing, seeing where he is. Now he's going to push up, count, so he gets the line length right, push across the top, count again with a full flick at just the right moment. There it is. And then still hold and then push down. That's a pretty good job, actually. Push down and then push out. Ooh, minus 5 or 6 G there. And then another push up into a stall turn. There's push up and then 2 quarter rolls. No, 2/8 rolls, pardon me. Good job. He's getting the measure of this now. And then a 3/4 flick. I would say slightly long before, short after. Now he's got this busy roll. He's quite low. So 3/4 roll followed by 3 quarters. And he's descending, so that really was a little bit low for my money. Now a double roll followed by a single roll the other way. Good. And from inverted he needs to push up for this double Humpty. Now he needs to gain some height here, which won't be a problem in this 6-cylinder machine. Pull across the top, and then don't make this line too long on this depth charge. Quarter roll towards, correct, and then pull up. That's it. So now he's back in the zone. And another quarter roll to get himself back on axis. Push over the top for this next complex. So he's going to hopefully wait until he's well past the judges, 2 half rolls, and then push down. So he's just getting himself into the right position before he starts this, probably about now. He's pushing it. 1, 2, and then push round. Quite a big G push. He's got to be quite aggressive on this. Yeah, that's good. And then 4 half rolls on axis. 2, 3, 4. Very good. And then half roll back and pulling back over to set himself up for this inverted 360-degree roller. So he's got to roll the aircraft 3 times whilst performing a circle inverted. And he's going away. That's an interesting choice from halfway there. I would have come towards, but he's doing it nice and tight, so actually not an issue. He's slightly behind. Roll rate slowed down. Now he's got a big push to get it back on axis. And then one last roll. Pulled it back. There you go. Back on axis. And the wing rocks. Pretty good job from Ben there. Got a little bit low towards the kind of 3/4 of the way through that sequence, but actually a pretty good job. Some nice flying there. Thought that square loop was good, but we'll see what the judges make of that, who are judging every single element of this. We've got 6 teams of judges, highly experienced pilots. We've got world-class unlimited pilots as judges, so they know this inside and out, and they'll be looking for every quarter roll, every line length, every radius, and knocking off points accordingly if things aren't absolutely perfect. And that's the way this sport is judged. Each figure has a complexity level called a K factor, and then you start with 10, and every point that's taken off for something that's not quite right, say you get 3 points off, then you get 70% of whatever the K factor is, and that's how you add up the scores. And you can hear in the background the dulcet tones of David Hurd's Edge 540, his fairly new machine that he's recently got, that he's getting to grips with. Fantastic machine, very fast. Used to be a Red Bull air racer, but being that fast can pose a separate set of problems. So he doesn't have a problem gaining height, but he has a problem slowing it down when he needs to fly at a reasonable speed rather than with his hair on fire. So he's getting to grips with that, but it's a great machine. And David Hurd is a British team pilot. He will be going to Hungary with Steve Bakhtiari and Paul Elvidge to represent the nation. Hello. So just while we wait for David Hurd to reposition, I can say that we do have the team pilots here. So this isn't a qualification event for the British team. That happened before. So we have 3 pilots here who will be going to the World Championships, and Steve Bakhtiari, Paul Elvidge and David Hurd. And they will still have more training to do. Those championships happen in September in Hungary. So we're very much looking forward to what they achieve for the British aerobatics. Thank you for joining us. We are looking forward to some more exciting aerobatics over the next few hours, including freestyle this evening at 5 o'clock. So judges just flexing their muscles whilst we wait for the next pilot to do his safety flying. Okay, so here we are. David Hurd diving in to do his warm-up maneuver. Right, there's the first wing rock. So this is David Hurd in the Edge 540, British team pilot, coming in to give us his version of this technical sequence, the final unknown for the advanced category. He'll start with the tail slide. Right in front of the judges. The idea is to make the aircraft slide backwards and then fall forwards. There's a little bit of a cheat just a little nib of the stick forward as it slides back. A little bit off axis, that wasn't quite as clean as it could be. A little bit pos on the way down. Now up for the 45, half roll and then push up, and then quarter roll in the vertical. A little bit late there. 2 of 8 on the way down. Very good. Now setting himself up for this P-loop, where he has to do 2 quarter rolls on the way up and then pull round with a series of rolls on the way out. So there he is, nicely positioned. 2 quarter rolls, nicely done, and then pulling round, and he's then got to do 1.5 rolls followed by 4/8 of a roll and keep it all on axis without wobbling. 1.5 to inverted, and then 4/8. 1, 2, 3. No, that will be a line. He didn't do those 4/8 quick enough. Now he's going to go up to the 45, and he'll be a long way out of the box actually, and he's slightly off axis. There's a half flick. That's good. So as you can see, he's actually a long way away and also off axis. He'll see that now as he comes down, and he'll fix it. So there's the 2 half rolls. And as he comes back in, he'll wait and get himself into the right place to start the spin. So he'll get back into the center of the box and get himself back in the right place. So there he goes. And then pull over the top to set himself up for an inverted spin. So a little bit out of shape in the previous 2 figures, but he's back on track now. There's the spin. 1.5. A little bit of a wobble at the end there. Big G pull round with a 1.5 flick at the top, followed by 2 quarter rolls. So 1.5 to upright. Okay, 2 quarter rolls. Bit of a gap there before the quarter rolls again. Just a little bit of a brain moment to remember what he's supposed to be doing. And now he has this big looping, swooping, repositioning figure, which he will have to make very big to get himself back around to the other side of the box, which he's doing. Nice, big repositioning. And then he'll do a half roll at the bottom and set himself up for this inverted square loop. So he'll do a half roll, and then past the judges he'll push up for the first part of the square, or second part of the square. First part, up we go, and then he'll push over the top, and he has to count to make this the right length. And then there's a full flick, slightly soft flick, and now a big push out inverted. Oh, -5 or 6 G there, right there. And then another push up into a stall turn with 2/8 of a roll on the way in. 2/8. Waiting a bit long. 1, 2. That's very long. Short after, I think that's called. And his aircraft always does push out a little bit of smoke at the very top there. And then he'll be doing a 3/4 flick. And the smoke goes. That's just oil getting out into the exhaust system and burning off. Now he's got 3/4 followed by 3 individual quarters. 3/4, 1, 2, 3, and then pull round. And then a double roll followed by a single roll. He's making this loop up quite big. Will he have enough speed to do this accurately? 1, 2, good job. Single roll. And now another push up for this repositioning double hump T. So a nice straight line, pull over the top, and then quarter roll towards the judges. Let's see if he rolls towards the judges from where he is. That's right. And then big G, there's that characteristic smoke again. Big G, he's made this quite big to reclaim some space in the box, and then quarter roll to get himself back on axis. Push over, set himself up for this half loop down. Quite high there. So he's going to do 2 half rolls and then push down with 4 half rolls at the bottom at high negative G. So there's the push down. Probably not far enough to the right. 4 half rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then another half roll. And then pull up. And he's quite far left. And then when he gets to the top, he will be setting himself up for this quite tricky 360 inverted roller. So he's got to perform a complete 360-degree turn whilst rolling the aircraft inwards 3 times. So 60 degrees for each section is the way aerobatic pilots think about it. Every half roll is a section. So there's the first one. He's going away. First section, 60 degrees. Second section, bit of a slowdown in the roll there. You may have got ahead and then rolling without turning. Yeah, this is quite high and uneven roll rate, but he's getting round. So final inverted in line. And there's the wing rocks. Quite high up there. You see, that shows you that that machine has such a lot of power. He can, even at the end of the sequence, he can regain a lot of height. So most machines probably couldn't. The 330 SCs could do that, but that shows you how much vertical power he's got. And he's trailing quite a lot of smoke through that. He'll have to refill the oil when he gets back down, because that's just the inverted oil system spitting out oil that's gone out the overflow and then throwing it into the exhaust system where it burns and creates that nice white smoke. So it's the same system that display pilots use, but not with engine oil. They have special smoke which is much puffier and less smelly. So nonetheless, when aerobatic aircraft do their sequences, there's such a lot of G and the oil gets thrown all over the place, and so they use sometimes half a litre of oil can be lost on an aerobatic flight if there's a lot of pushing, especially. So every morning, always check the oil level. It has to be exactly right before you can do a day's flying. Usually every couple of flights you can check the flying. So David will be checking his oil once he's safely on the ground and the engine's cooled down. So we are halfway through the advanced category, waiting for our next pilot, which will be Laura Russell. Rather splendid old moth of some sort, taking off, clattering away. Faster than a speeding bullet? I think not. Splendid machine, of course. Sywell was a training airfield during the wars, so there'd be plenty of those. Tiger moths were a staple of RAF training for many, many, many years. So moths of some description taking off from here will have happened many, many times before. And there is David Hurd just rolling out in his beautiful, pristine Edge 540, rolling out to the end of the 03 hard runway after what will have been a very tiring flight. It's the thing about pulling and pushing, a lot of pushing negative G. So if you're pulling 7G and you're pushing -6, that is a 13G spread. So that's 13 times your body weight stress on your body. So it's actually, even though you haven't moved your body, it's very tiring and also very hot. So he will be looking for some hydration and a bit of chill out after that exertion as he taxis his beautiful aircraft across this Sywell airfield. Immaculately kept airfield, lovely 3 grass runways and 1 hard runway, so all the options available for pilots. And in the background there we have Laura Russell taking off in the 330LX. So here we have Laura Russell wing rocking in for the final sequence in her advanced competition, coming up towards the judges to present to us a tail slide, so quite close, pulling up just before the judges, so she will be wanting to slide the aircraft backwards whilst making it fall forwards. There's the cheat. Is that enough? As it slides backwards, beautiful tail slide, very, very nice. Right on axis, very good. So she needs to now set herself up to a 45 up line with a half roll, and then push up to the vertical and then give us another quarter roll. Slightly off axis there and a bit late, got a bit slow at the top there. You need to carry enough energy to make that work. Good 2 of 8 on the way down, and now setting herself up for this P-loop. So she goes straight up, 2 quarter rolls on the way up, pull round, and then on the way out. So she's done that short, so she's slightly off axis, but she will hopefully see that now and straighten it out, which she has. And then 1.5 rolls followed by 4/8 of a roll. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up, and then half flick. Waited probably a bit long for that half flick, which means she's short on energy for the top of the roll, top of this figure, so it's short after. She comes back round, 2 half rolls on the down 45. That's good, and then comes out straight, and then we'll wait till she's past the judges to go up and set ourselves up for the spin. So she's going to go up to probably 2.5-ish thousand feet, pull inverted, and set ourselves up for a 1.5 inverted spin. So starting from upside down, cut the engine, stall the aircraft, and then exit perfectly on heading. So a little bit long in before, good direction, and now big G pull at the bottom with a 1.5 flick at the top. There's the 1.5 flick, bit of a dip in there, 2 quarter rolls, bit of a pause before the 2 quarter rolls, and then she's got to wait a little bit to reposition and then pull herself down. It seems to be climbing a little bit. Pull herself down into this big looping, swooping section, which she could afford to pull herself towards the judges more. Half roll on the way up. I'd say she's maybe got the RPM a bit low, because it feels like she's struggling for power a bit, which shouldn't be in a big 6-cylinder machine, but maybe she needs to crank up the RPM. It's a hot day, power does go down with the RPM low. So now inverted, she's got this square loop, so she's pushing up, count to get the right length of line, and then going across the top with a full flick across the top, wait, and then push down, and then push out for an inverted cross, -6G. That line was probably a little bit shorter than the way up, and now she pushes up into a stall turn, inverted stall turn, 2 of 8, 2/8. 2 of 8's first one was a bit short, and then she's going to do a stall turn at the top, and on the way back down do a 3/4 flick. Very good. And now she's got to do a 3/4 roll followed by 3/4 rolls, but without dipping. First 1, 2, 2, 3. Very good. Now pull up with enough speed, making that a really big looping section, which is meaning she's going to be slow at the top. And there's a double roll, quite slow, off axis a little bit, and a full roll. Good. Stopped a little bit early. I think if she pulled that tighter, she would have had more speed. Now she needs to get herself back on axis. So she needs to push up into this double humpty. Plenty of time to get herself back on axis. Pull over. A quarter roll to the judges. That's it. And then a big depth charge. Oh, pull the G. And then quarter roll to get back on axis. Coming towards. Push over the top, bit short after. Now, wait a little bit before doing the half rolls. Very high. Make sure she puts the half rolls in exactly the right place just before she pushes down. So somewhere around here would probably be the spot. 1, 2, and then push down so that when she's inverted she can do 4 half rolls at the bottom. Big push, -6G. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's a 5th one, and pull back up. And then she's got this awkward 360-degree rolling turn. 360-degree turn with 3 revolutions of the aircraft whilst you're doing it. So is she going to come towards from where she is? That would be the right thing to do. But let's see what she's going, which way she's going to go. Towards, excellent. So that's the first section, first 45, and the second. Got to keep the roll rate going so that it doesn't become too big, but she's got enough space. There's the third. She's getting ahead of herself a bit. Yeah, she's well ahead of herself. I think she's going to end up. That's good. Very good. Actually, she was a little bit behind because these are 60-degree rolls. Wing rocks to end. So actually that was a pretty good job on that roller. That was Laura Russell in the 330LX. And it's interesting, you've got to, as an aerobatic pilot, think about the air density. Because when it's really hot like this, the air is less dense, because hot things are less dense than cold things, generally. And that means that the air going into the engine has got less oxygen in it, and so it burns less brightly and you get less power. So consequently you need to crank up the RPM by 100 or so to give yourself more power to compensate. And it being a very hot day, it's not something that we British pilots have to deal with that much, but continental pilots much more used to doing it, where you have to crank up the RPM on a hot day to compensate. So I just got the feeling she was running out of power at the top of some of those vertical lines. It may also be that she needs to pull some of her looping segments going up a little bit tighter, just to give her a little bit more juice to make the rolls cleaner at the top. But a good effort from Laura. Lovely tail slide to begin with. Spot on.
Brought to you by Tele2 IoT.
Friend from Italy, based at Modena, the home of Ferrari. So he flies an extra 300S. So this is another extra, single seat, but an earlier model, a single seat variant of the 300L. Very capable, lovely aircraft. 6 cylinders, 300 horsepower, AEO 540 engine, Lycoming 540 in it. Always the issue with these is that they have quite a small fuel tank. So the 330SC, which you'll be seeing in the unlimited category, is the updated, the redesigned version of this with, whereas this I think has 47 litres in its acro tank. the new version, the 330SC, has 101 litres, so more than double, because it was seen that that was a bit of an issue. But when you're taking off from an airfield, going straight overhead, doing aerobatics and landing, not an issue. If you want to go anywhere else, you have to put fuel in the wings, which when you've got fuel in the wings, you're not able to do any aerobatics. That's the way the certification works. You have to only have fuel in the acrobatic tank. But Ricardo flies this very well. He's come all the way here from Italy with his with Mirko from the Italian Aerobatic Association to take part in the Open, and we're delighted to have him here. And there on the runway, Laura Russell rolling out in her 330LX. Commercial pilot is a day job, but this is what she does for fun. Right, so here we have Ricardo. Wing rocks in, comes in to give us a tail slide, the first figure of his final advanced unknown. Straight up, a little bit of a cheat to make sure that the aircraft slides backwards but falls forwards. There's the cheat. Sliding backwards, falling forwards. Nice job. Very clean tail slide. Right in front of the judges. Nice long line after, which is very good. Up to the 45 for the stall turn with a half roll on the way in, and then a clean push to vertical with a quarter roll. Nicely done. Stall turn and then 2 of 8 to bring us back onto the A axis. Very good, very clean so far. Now lining himself up for a P-loop right in front of the judges, pulling up 2 of 4, 2 quarters on the way in, and then pulling round, nice looping shape with a 1.5 roll followed by 4/8 of a roll the other way. Nicely on axis, clean and stable. 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. And then up to the 45.5 flick. slightly short on the half flick, but he'll sort that out on the way round. This is well positioned. He's a good 200 meters closer in than everybody else, which is very good. Better for the judges to judge. Now he can set himself up for the spin. So vertically up and then inverted 2,500 feet to set himself up for this 1.5 turn inverted spin, starting from upside down. Do a perfectly crisp spin. There it goes. Power comes off, stops on axis. Very nice. And now a big G power comes on. Big G pull around. 6-7 G with a good 1.5 flick at the top. He's got some speed. 1.5. And then 2 quarter rolls to inverted. He's doing a very good job of this. And now this big looping, swooping figure to set himself up for the inverted square loop. So back up, half roll, and he can position himself because he can see inverted. He can now see where he is on the ground when you're upside down, and he can just make sure he's in exactly the right place. He comes around, he does a half roll to inverted, and he's in exactly the right place, the right speed, and then he can choose where he wants to do that. Quite early, but that's not a problem. Over the top, needs to do a full flick. Good. Push down, and then a push out. That's a very neat square loop. And now he's going to push up again. He's keeping this quite tight, which is good. 2 1/4 of a roll and into a stall turn. Nice clean stall turn just at the apex. Just a little bit of a pull the power there just to make sure he was in the right spot. Full 3/4 flick. Very good. And now this 3/4 roll followed by 3/4 of a roll, all on axis. And he's just giving himself a little bit of time there. And pull up. Double roll one way, single roll the other. He seems to have plenty of energy. Double roll. Single roll. Very good. And now pushing up into this Humpty to reposition closer to the judges. So I'm assuming he will come down here and then he will roll right to face us. No, he's gone away. Interesting. Okay, that's doesn't make a huge amount of difference. Just a little bit harder for the judges to judge when you're that far away. So he's gone over the top. And he will be doing 2 half rolls and then pushing down for the high-speed inverted 4/2. He's just waiting till he's in the right spot. There's the half rolls, and now the push. Just bringing it slightly further towards, and then he'll be doing 1, 2, 3, 4 half rolls, pause, and then a 5th half roll, and then pulling back up to get himself set up for this 360-degree roller, which he's going to do towards because he went away on the previous figure. I'm sure that's his plan. So this is a 360-degree turn whilst rolling the aircraft 3 times. Which he needs to start now. These are 60 degrees every half roll. Okay, slight variation in the roll rate, which is what the judges are looking for. They're looking for constant rotation and constant circle making. So he got slightly behind that one. He's not quite at 360, but it's a pretty good effort. Good job. Actually, I think Ricardo had that nicely positioned. So of all the pilots, that was very well positioned. He managed to keep that banana, that 45-degree figure really relatively tight in. and everything else was really nicely in front of the judges. My only issue would be that he should have probably come towards at that double Humpty and then make the roller a little bit easier to see closer in, but not a big issue, wasn't that far away, we could see it all. It's a very good flight, very good flight.
Brought to you by Tele2 IoT.
So we can just see Ricardo bringing his 300S into land. Very nice aircraft. As I said, small fuel tank, but very nice to fly. I used to have one. Very nice to fly. So here we are. Our next competitor is Carl Cox, also in the 330 LX, as flown by his teammate Ben Filer. The 330 LX is based at White Waltham, part of Ultimate Aerobatics. So if you want to go in it, get down to Ultimate Aerobatics at White Waltham and they will take you up in it. Perhaps something a little less spicy than what's about to happen, but Carl is going to show us hopefully how well he can fly this tricky sequence. So there are the wing rocks and he's diving in for the tail slide. Can he make this clean and neat? So pulling up to the vertical and hoping to make the aircraft fly backwards but full canopy forwards. Where's the cheat? That's quite subtle, but it works beautifully. Very nice tail slide, very clean, excellent job. Back up for 45-degree line with a half roll to inverted and then push to vertical to and a quarter roll, and then the 2 of 8 on the way down. It's a nice stall turn. 2 of 8, there you go, 2-8 roll, and then pull across, set itself up for the P loop. Up, 2 quarter rolls, and then pull round, slightly short in that first quarter roll, pull round, and then do 1.5 rolls, and then 4 of 8, 4/8 the other way, while staying on axis without dipping the nose. Very good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very neat. And then up for the 45. Half flick. Very good. And then pulling around and well positioned. He's kept this nicely in the box. 2 half rolls. Quite steep on the way down there. And putting himself in a good position to set up for the spin. So climb back up to about 2,500, pull inverted, and then turn the engine off, basically. It's actually closing the throttle, but same effect. And get the aircraft to spin 1.5 times from inverted. Now he's letting that run on, waiting for it to stop. Sounds like it was intentional. 1.5, and now he's going to pull round and do 1.5 flicks at the top. Very nice, and then 2 quarter rolls to inverted. Now, for my money, he should wait before he pulls down into this big looping swooping. That's good, and then he can pull that down. He's taking a break. So that is him wing rocking, taking a break. I suspect he's had a moment of a sudden loss of memory. He suddenly was thinking, oh, what's next? Where am I? What's going on? And if that happens, he did the right thing, which is to take a break, reposition. The penalty for taking a break is much lower than the penalty for messing up a whole figure. So he is now having a think. Where do I need to restart? How am I going to do? He needs to get himself back into position with those ring rocks and then continue. He was in just the right place to do that, the next figure. So it's quite likely it was him being unsure of what he was supposed to be doing next that made him stop. But that is the process, and here are the inverted wing rocks. Or maybe he was worried about the altitude. That's also because he's now considerably higher than he was. Maybe he was worried about the altitude. That could have been it. In which case, good call, Carl. Half roll. and then pull round. And then he will do a half roll to inverted and do this inverted push square loop. So there is the inverted section. The first leg, push over the top, and then has to count to get this length of this line right. Put the flick in the middle of it. There's the flick. Keep counting. Maybe a little bit early. Pushing down and then pushing out. I would say that's not as long as the way up. And now another push up with 2/8 of a roll on the way up. 1, 2. Very good. And then a 3/4 flick on the way out. 3/4 flick, slightly short. And then 3/4 followed by 3/4. 3/4, nice. 2, slightly short on that second quarter. Pull up, double roll one way, single roll the other way. 1, 2, without dipping the nose, slight dip. And a little bit of a pause before he continued. Now he's going to push up into this humpty, and as with the previous pilot, I would hope that at this stage he would turn towards the judges because he's quite far back. Let's see what he does. Yes, he's turning towards the judges to bring the plane closer, make it easier for the judges to score. And then quarter roll and push off on the A-axis, nicely positioned. And he'll wait a little bit before he does the half rolls, and then the next figure is a push down with 4 half rolls at the bottom at high speed. So he's just waiting to get that into the right place before he does the half rolls, probably around now. There you go, 1, 2, pushing down, and he's a big push, -6G, and then 4 half rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, and then a 5th, there he goes, and then pull up, O inverted, and then setting himself up for this rolling circle, 360 degrees with 3 full rolls of the aircraft whilst you're doing it, hopefully coming towards. No, he's going away. 1, 2, 3 halves, 4, 5 halves, and the final one back on axis. Not a bad effort, not bad at all. Except those wing rocks, surprisingly difficult, those wing rocks to keep level, inverted wing rocks. But good effort from Carl Cox there. Took a break, I think, to regain height, although I think he had plenty, but much better if he wasn't at the height that he planned to be at that point. That is exactly the right thing to do, to wing rock, reposition, get yourself to the height that you had planned to be at, and then continue, rather than saying I'm sure it'll be fine and carrying on, because that is not a safe thing to do. So props to Carl for making that call. I'll chat to him afterwards just to check that was it. It wasn't that he'd forgotten what he was doing, because it's quite a simple figure he was heading into. So as the contest director drives away in his little Kawasaki, Carl can be pretty pleased with that flight, I think. I think it was well positioned, only a couple of wobbles here and there, but some good airmanship on display.
Brought to you by Tele2 IoT.
30LX. This one based at Slape, owned by Nick Wakefield, and who Gary has been training with, and he will be the final advanced competitor. And that will bring the advanced championship to a close. So after this flight, we will have an inkling of who might be champion at the advanced category. Just while we watch the judges reorganise their paperwork, and in the background, Carl Cox bring his 330LX safely in to land on 03 left at Sywell Aerodrome in Northamptonshire. The end of his advanced contest. 4 sequences flown. Nice landing, Carl. A wheeler. See the tail still up. And he lets that rest, and then most likely he'll taxi to the end of the runway and head back across the grass. Unprecedentedly beautiful weather here today, which we are taking full advantage of with some very good aerobatics. The 330LX is carbon fibre winged metal construction. Brilliant aerobatic trainer, unlimited capable, very strong, sturdy, safe, predictable aircraft with tremendous capability. Single seat version, which we will be seeing next in the unlimited category, has got a bigger tail, a much bigger elevator, and obviously only 1 seat, so has even more spectacular performance, and hence it's the preferred mount for the World Aerobatic Championship pilots, best in the world. So this is Gary Frederick coming in for his warm-up figure, making sure the aircraft is in good shape, getting his G muscles warmed up, and checking the wind, of which there is very little. So here is Gary Frederick coming in to first wing rock, signal the commencement of his final unknown sequence that he only got yesterday evening, and he's had to learn on the ground, and now he's going to fly it for the first time with a tail slide, pulling up to get the aircraft to fly backwards yet fall forwards. A little bit of a cheat, very subtle but enough. There it is, falls forward, nicely done. Straight line, and now pulls it up to a 45 with a half roll, and then up to the push to vertical with a quarter roll. Nice clean stall turn, and 2/8 of a roll to get him back on the main axis. 2/8, straight line, pull out, and now setting himself up for the P-loop. So lots of speed, 2 quarter rolls, short on that second quarter, so this P-loop will be off axis. Has he seen it? And he pulls round, straighten it now. Yes, he has seen it, and now he does a 1.5 roll to inverted, and then 4/8 back to erect, and then up into this banana half flick. Very good, and then pulling round, and on the down 45, 2 of 2, 2 half rolls. 1, 2. Quite low at the bottom here, but fine, and then he pulls himself right back up to get himself set up for the spin. So all the way back up to about 2,500 feet, pulls off inverted, and then closes the throttle to fall in a controlled way into a 1.5 inverted spin. So just letting it run a little bit, probably too far, I'd say. But here we go. 1.5. Good. Vertically down. Now pulls it up and round. Lots of power on. With a 1.5 flick at the top. Staying on axis without dipping the nose. 1.5. And then he's got 2 quarter rolls. Was that a half or was that 2 quarter rolls? I didn't quite see that. Now he's slightly off axis. He's going to fix that in this next figure as he pulls round in this big looping, swooping figure, half roll here to set himself up for this square loop. Plenty of time. You can see the ground, you can see the runway, you can angle it correctly. There it goes. And now he can do half roll and then push up into this square loop, and he's got to get the lengths of these lines correct, so he has to count different amounts for different speeds. Push over the top, slightly off axis, slightly towards. He's going to do a flick. That's a long line, so he's now got to do equally long line the other side of that flick. So he is counting, and then a line at the bottom. So for my money, that was a bit too long at the top. The counting wasn't quite right compared to the speeds. He's going to push back up into a stall turn with 2/8 of a roll on the way in. That's very good. Nice clean stall turn at the top, the apex, and then a 3/4 flick on the way down to get him back onto axis. There it is. Very good. Now, complex rolls, 3/4 one way, 3/4 rolls the other way, without dipping, staying on axis. 3/4, 1, 2, 3. Pulling round, double roll at the top, and a single roll the other way. 1, 2, and then a single roll the other way. And then pushing up into this repositioning double humpty. So he's going to go up, come round, and then quarter roll, I would say, towards the judges, because he's probably halfway in the box. towards the judges. He's quite far to the left compared to some of the other pilots, but he is bringing it towards, which is good. And then another quarter roll to bring him facing the right axis. A little bit late, which means he's very high, but maybe he needs that for the push half loop. So now he needs to wait before he does the half rolls to get himself back into the center of the box, center area of the box, because he went quite far left. And then once he thinks he's in the right position, he'll begin the half rolls and then push down. About now, Gary. I think he's waited too long. 1, 2, quite a long way out. Pushing down. And now 4 half rolls at high speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's very good. And then a 5th. And then pull up. Half loop back up. Setting himself up for this roller, which he now should do away because he's quite close. So 360 degrees whilst rolling the aircraft 3 times. He's coming towards. Interesting choice. 1, 2. This is going to get behind the judges. 3. Always pulled it tight. I can't see it. Even I can't see it. He is right above the judges. Now he's back out. So he has unfortunately got the rolls wrong, and so ended up upright back on the 360 heading. I couldn't quite see because he went above our heads whether he did too many or too few, and then rolled erect and did the wing rock. So I suspect he might have zeroed that roller because of that, because effectively he put extra rolls in, which is a great shame because that was not a bad flight. Really not a bad flight from Gary there. But that brings to a close the Advanced National Championships. So all the pilots have flown all the sequences. The judges have, in a few moments, will have done the final scores for Gary's flight, and then that will all get put together into the final tally, which will show us who has come out on top. Now, of course, these are raw scores, which means that even though someone might be on top, there is still time, and the judges go away and check that everything that was typed in and written down is actually correct. There are no administrative errors, which does happen in the heat of the moment, and then out will come the formal scores, which will then, at which point, if you are at the top at that point, then you are the champion. But at the moment we are in a raw score situation because there are sometimes some funnies that come along. Scores, someone wrote 6 and it gets turned into a 0, or a 0 and it looks like a 6, or all sorts of things like that. So that needs to be worked out to make sure everything is absolutely on the money. As we see Gary bring his extra back in at the end of probably quite a taxing flight. I suspect he's going to backtrack, which means he's going to do a little pivot on the runway and taxi it back down to the other end of the runway and use the hard taxiway all the way back to the pumps, where he will refuel both the plane with fuel and himself with some cold water, I suspect, after that. So I think there's potentially a brief break before we begin the final set of sequences at the unlimited level. So this is now the toughest sequence with the top pilots. So you are going to see some pretty interesting flying in the next section.
Brought to you by Tele2 IoT.
One camera there, I sit there with one camera, we've got one camera there, and it's I'm going to show you the street. This is way this is it. Mama. Wow. I could go on the sort of that.
Oh, hang on. How are we going to do this?
Short break, I think. Breaking at the moment.
got him. Right, well, the scores are in, and just before we kick off with the Unlimited, we'll just have a quick run through of the scores. And it seems that we've got, from that last sequence, 3 pilots absolutely neck and neck at the top. Steve, Bakhtiari, Ricardo Kresge and Carl Cox all scoring 72 and a bit %. Very good flights from the 3 of them. Ben Filer at the next, big gap to the next at 60%, and then Gary, that final flight there, Laura, David, and then Paul at the bottom there. But what that's telling me is that we've got 3 pilots in that last sequence who did a very good job. Those 3 flights, all up north of 70%, which is, with this world-class judging, is very good scores. So what's interesting is how that will then fit into how they've scored on the other sequences. So we will see. So there are the scores. As we see in the background, one of the judges walking through the sequence that's about to happen to make sure he knows it. And in the background we can hear the first Unlimited pilot, the Brit Chris Brooke, who is taking to the skies to give us his version of this really quite technically demanding and complex Unlimited sequence. As we've said, this is the hardest sequence, the final sequence for the Unlimited pilots, and it's got some interesting figures. We've got a diamond loop, we'll show you through that. We've got some Ming vases. We've got 3 Ming vases, which is where you flick the same way as the line you're flying, so negative flick on a positive line or a positive flick on a negative line. Quite uncomfortable to do. And we've even got opposing Ming vases on a push square loop, so some really quite wonderful things. And we've also got a down loop, so you'll be familiar with a loop that's flown, pilot goes along and flies up and round, and the advanced pilots did a push loop, which is then doing that but from inverted. This, at Unlimited, you start off and then you do the loop downwards, and at the bottom they have to do a 4-point roll. Really quite a difficult figure, Unlimited only. And then we've got a 360-degree rolling circle with 3 changes of direction. It's called an outie-innie roller, for those of you who want to know. So we've got some Ming vases, some down loops, and some innie-outies. The only thing we haven't got in this sequence is a mad cow, but we did that one in the previous sequence. So really full of interest and complexity, plenty to do for the pilots, and really quite a challenge on this beautiful day at Sywell. Chris comes flying back, doing his warm-up maneuvers, making sure that he and his aircraft are in tip-top condition to fly. And as ever, pilots are attempting to fly everything neatly, crisply, and without wobbling, exactly on axis, straight lines, sharp corners, all neatly in front of the judges. That's called positioning. It's about where on the airfield you place your figures, and you want them just in front of the judges so they can see them clearly. So you're close enough, not too close, not too far away, not too high, not too low. Very, very difficult to do when you're screaming around the sky at 200 miles an hour upside down and rolling 720 degrees in one direction and 360 in the other. Very disorienting and requires a huge amount of practice and experience, which is what these pilots have at Unlimited. Chris Brooke is the current British national champion, holder of the Neil Williams Trophy, and here he comes with his wing rocks to enter into this big complex P-loop that starts with a half flick, and he's at 220 miles an hour. And let's see, right in front of the judges, he wants a nice crisp half flick. Beautiful. And then pull round with a four-point roll at the top. He's done an 8-point roll. It is an 8-point roll. Good. That's me. My mistake. Not yours, Chris. Excellent. Now 1 3/4 roll. Followed by a 1 1/4 roll the other way. Up 45. 1 1/4 rolls. And then 2 of 8s the other way. Beautifully done. Very, very busy. And now a sharp knife edge down with a full neg flick on the way down. She has to get on with. Very good. And unlimited pilots can fly much lower than any other levels, down to 350 feet. And now the diamond loop. So he's got to make a diamond shape in the sky whilst also doing the rolls. 2, 3, 4 and 3/4. And now he has to do a very long, slow diamond. And the other leg has to be the same length. So there's a lot of counting going on. This is probably a 10 count. Then he pulls it across the top, and on this section he has to do a full neg snap. That's that. And then pulls it round for the fastest section, which only takes a couple of seconds. Good job. And now a tail slide. So it going up, 1 1/4 roll to the whichever way, to the right in this case, and then a tail slide with the canopy down. So exactly the same as the advanced. Slide the aircraft backwards. Beautifully done. And now a 3/4 positive flick on the way down. No rest for the wicked. And then a push out. Oh, and now we have this awkward square loop. So push up, and now he's going to push onto the horizontal and then do a negative half snap followed by a full positive snap on a negative line. So there's the half neg, and now here's the full. Very good. Both of those went down effectively, but in opposite directions. And now he's coming back at the bottom of the box, and he's got a little bit of a breather. He's got a nice easy quarter double Humpty to get himself repositioned for the down loop. So he's moving himself a little bit away, because he knows he's going to have to do this at height. And then quarter roll on the way back, up, back into the center of the box, quarter roll, and now pull negative, inverted. He will be doing a 360-degree, a loop down, but with a 4-point roll, 2/4 of which are on the way down and 2/4 of which are on the way up. Very tricky. And if you look at this end on, you would see that they're actually creating a snake. They're not doing this straight, but we can't see it because we're looking at side on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good effort. Wow. And now he's got to make sure he goes back to the same height that he started at to make the loop correct. That is a big figure. Now again, a simple linking figure, half loop down. Very simple, to set himself up for a push P-loop. So a little bit of a moment of relaxation. Brief, but well deserved. And he will be choosing when to pull down to get some speed, and then do a half roll to inverted, and then a series of rolls of 3/4, and then 3 of 4, slightly coming towards. 1 3/4, 2, 3, and then a push up, which he's going to straighten out. There we go. And then a double roll at the top. Very nice. And then push down, and then 3/4 roll towards. And then pull up. He's very close now, but okay. And then use the Humpty to move away a little bit. That's it. So moving back into the golden zone. Nice, tall, big Humpty. Quarter roll. Bang on positioning. Now, exactly probably past the judges. No, at the judges, he's going to do a full flick. Very nice. Wow, Chris is really on it today. Quarter roll, sorry, not a quarter roll. Stall turn, 2 half rolls on the way down before he enters an infinity loop. Up to the 45, full roll, and then a negative half snap. There's the negative. It's just a bit short, and he pulls round and back up to create that figure of 8 in the sky with a double 1.5 roll, sorry, on the way back up. And pulls round. Nice big loop, pulls round, gets some box, and then 4 half rolls on the way out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then pull up, simple loop up, setting himself up for this inverted innie, I think it's an outie, innie, outie, innie, 360-degree rolling turn from inverted to inverted. So he's got to draw a 360 circle whilst rolling 4 times and changing direction 3 times. So this is outside, outside, and outside, and now inside. It's coming very close to the judges. Inside and inside. That's good. And now outside and outside, and then the final change again, inside and inside to inverted, back where he started, wing rocks. What a great job there from Chris Brookke. Really good flying, very technically demanding sequence, absolutely loads going on there. Really good effort. I hope he scores well for that, because that's an outstanding piece of flying. Well, he's thrown the gauntlet down for the other 3 unlimited pilots. They've got to deliver well to match up with that. So we'll see what they can deliver. Really demanding flying. I mentioned Ming vases, and what that means is that whilst you're at the top of that square loop, he was flying upright but had to do a negative half snap, so push the aircraft nose down and roll, flick roll, and then another Ming vase, which is he's inverted, and then he has to push the nose, pull the nose down again to do a full flick, whilst also keeping the aircraft on a constant line. Really, really difficult to do. And there is Igoris Labanovas in his XA42 with a single place canopy, taking off for his go at this unlimited unknown sequence. Just to remind you, these pilots were given this unknown yesterday evening on paper. They spent yesterday night after our contest dinner pacing it through in their hotel rooms, working out where each roll, flick and line should be, and memorizing it so that they could come out here this morning and fly it for the first time. That is how unknowns work. Supremely demanding to be able to keep all that in your head whilst you are flying at 200 miles an hour upside down at 500 feet and remembering exactly which orientation you're in. Hugely demanding flying this, but we are seeing pilots who really are on top of their game. As we watch Chris Brookke bring the 330 SC into land. Chris Brookke, also a British Aerobatics team pilot, been to the World Aerobatic Championships a number of times. Based at White Waltham, near Maidenhead. Just doing a little backtrack rather than taxi to the end of the runway. He's just spun round and he's gonna taxi back. I mentioned a mad cow. A mad cow is when you've done a huge pushing maneuver, so a half loop up, negative, push, and then the flick is another push. So it's a double push, which is what we had in the last sequence. We had a half loop up push with a 1.5 neg snap at the top, so that's called a mad cow. Aerobatic pilots love to give them exclusive names. There is an air show maneuver called a Lomchevak, which actually means, I believe, the kick of a mule, which is what it feels like when you do that. Lots of exotic names: Humpty Bumps, Quarter Clovers, Cubans, Diamond Loop, self-explanatory, but the Mad Cow is not self-explanatory, nor is the Ming Vase. So, just waiting for Igoris to position his XA-42, ready to dive in and give us his version of this unknown sequence that starts with a P-loop. So here he is, diving in very steep, 3 wing rocks, maximum 200 knots, pulling up a little bit after the judges, half flick. Very nice, and now he pulls around with an 8-point roll at the top. He's very close to the judges, so that's quite close to see, and we can see that he's slightly off axis. But he pulls it back round, and he's now got a 1 3/4 and a 1 1/4 roll the other way. 2 inverted, 1 3/4, a little bit of a dip there, 1 3, and then he pushes up into the 45, and he's got a 1 1/4 roll again, followed by a 2 of 8 the other way, 1 1/4, slightly under, over, 2 1/4, yep. Now pull it down into a knife with a full neg flick. So that's where you punch the dashboard with the stick and then kick the foot. Very nicely done. And now he's going to come in for this diamond loop, quite close to the judges for such a tall figure, with 3 quarter rolls followed by a 3/4 roll on the way up. 45, 1 2 3. Pilot's doing it very quickly to keep the energy, and then pulling into the up inverted 45 section of the diamond, counting, making sure his counting is correct at the top, pulling round, full neg flick, nicely done, and then pulling it in for the final 45 at high speed. Good job. Now straight up into the tail slide, a little bit of wing rocks there. Oh no, that is a full wing rock. So something's not quite right. There might be a slight concern that there's an aircraft issue. He didn't look like he was in the wrong position. Maybe a strap's come loose. Maybe a light went off on the... Something's not quite right. Judges are in full communication. The engine is running. We'll just wait and see. So we've heard that he has some sort of technical problem, but the engine is running. So that is the end of Igoris' flight. So something he's not happy with in the aircraft. At the end in that diamond loop, something's not right. Always a good decision. If something isn't right, a little light comes on, or you hear a funny noise, or it just doesn't feel right, you stop and you land. Much better to discover what the problem is on the ground than up there. So Igoris bringing his XA41 into land. Whatever the tech issue is, doesn't seem to be affecting the engine or his ability to control the plane. It could be anything from a loose strap to anything that's fairly minor. It really doesn't take anything much to make it not safe to fly from a pilot's perspective. So that's a very good call from Igoris. If it doesn't feel right, stop. So that's what he's done, and he will be taxiing back to the hangar, where hopefully he can sort out whatever the problem was, the loose strap, the whatever it might be, and it is absolutely within the rules for him to fly again and to pick up where he left off. So that would be, the judges would then start scoring from the end.
Brought to you by Tele2 IoT.
So we restart after that issue with our next pilot, Daniel Genev, who has taken off and is climbing into the box. All is good with Igoris. Technical issue with the plane did not prevent him making a safe landing, but was absolutely the right call for him to stop doing unlimited aerobatics and get on the ground. And he's going to look at it and see if it's possible to fix it and then refly. We don't know whether that's going to be possible. It's possible, but not massively likely. Very demanding sequence. Really putting the aircraft and the pilot through their paces. Daniel Genev is doing his safety features. One correction I need to make. Chris Brooke is not our current national champion. He is a previous national champion. Our current national champion isn't here today. It's Mel Assel. So Melanie, wonderful pilot who's currently very busy on the display circuit. Was in the UK last weekend but cannot be with us this week due to commitments. Real shame. She was both the Open and the national champion last year. Real shame she couldn't be with us. We love when Melanie comes to fly with us, but she is our current national champion. She went to the World Championships last year on behalf of the UK, of Great Britain, and we are very much looking forward for her to be competing at next year's Open, when she can show us all how it's done. In the meantime, we have Daniel Genev just doing his warm-up figures. Quite a tall order for him to fly this sequence cleanly and neatly in order to beat Chris Brooke in this sequence. And then, of course, the scores for all these sequences get added together to tell us who is the Open champion, the overall Open British Open champion. One of these unlimited pilots will claim that crown. It's not that obvious. Scores, everyone's been making mistakes here, there and everywhere. Scores have been going up and down. There isn't a clear winner, which there sometimes is, but these are tough, challenging sequences, beautifully designed, putting the pilots through their paces and entertaining us all. So we'll see what Daniel has to show. And here he is with the wing rocks, diving into the box to give us the P-loop with the half flick. Here he is, 220 miles an hour, just past the judges, pulls up, half flick. Very neat. Pull over, 8-point roll, 1. Now, was that first point a quarter? Because if it was, that would mean he zeroes the figure. Not sure, couldn't see it clearly from here. Beautiful 1 3/4, 1 1/4, push up to 45, another 1 1/4 with up 2 of 8ths. He's really sharp on this, pulls it down smartly into a knife edge, full neg flick, pulls out, getting ready for the diamond loop, the high-speed diamond loop, right at the judges, a few hundred feet. He's going to pull up. It's going to be 3 of 4 followed by a 3/4 roll, and then push smartly into the upgoing 45 inverted. Long line, feels like ages when you're in the cockpit. You have to count seconds very carefully to make sure you get the right line length, and then back down the other side, accelerating, full neg flick, and then pull into the 45 at high speed, 200 miles an hour at the bottom. Beautiful job. Straight up into the tail slide, 1 1/4 roll. Which way will he go? To the right. 1.25, and then tail slide with the canopy down. The canopy, so falling this way, the aircraft has to slide backwards 1 aircraft length. Nicely done. And then a 3/4 flick with a push out. No, he's done that the wrong way and he's pulled out. Oh my goodness. He needs to wing rock. That is a real shame. So Daniel's realised that he did the flick the wrong way. He chose the flick the wrong way, which meant that he pulled out instead of pushed out. And that unfortunately means that that figure, figure 4, the tail slide figure, he will have hard zeroed. So my money would be that if he flies the rest cleanly, even still, Chris Brooke will have done a better job than he has on this sequence. So it's so easy. One tiny little mistake like that, little brain bubble, you just decide to flick left instead of right, can mean the difference between winning and losing. It's a brutal sport, similar to Formula 1 in that way. It's not nanoseconds of speed, it's nanoseconds of thought, mental neurons. He'll be kicking himself as he flies around to reposition. Daniel's a great pilot, but even great pilots can make tiny mistakes which have big consequences. So I assume he'll come in and begin at figure 5, which is the square loop, but that does mean he'll have to do inverted wing rocks. So he's doing an inverted 45 with inverted wing rocks. Beautifully done. He'll push out, so he'll be doing -5G before he's even started. And here he comes in, figure 5 for the square loop, which he'll do just past the judges. Big push up, -6G. Little squirt of smoke under the G. Push forward, and now this double, so half neg, very close. Full pos on a neg line. And then, so 2 Ming vases, and then pull down. Very close to the judges, but that's how he likes to fly. He likes to make it very clean and close. Then he has a chance to reposition in this double Humpty with the quarter roll. Is he going to go? He's going to come towards even still, but I suspect he'll pull it tight and he won't come that far, and he's making this one quite deep. So he's going to keep himself in the golden zone. All about positioning these double Humpties. Pull it up, pull it tight. Yes, it's right in the golden zone. And he's a quarter roll to come inverted across back to the right. And then he'll do this down loop with a 4x4 roll on the bottom. Quite an exotic, unlimited only figure. Really quite difficult. So he will pull it down. When he finds he's in just the right place, he keeps it very low speed, probably 80 knots at this point. And then he's coming down, he's turned the power off. That's how slow he wants to make it. And now he's got to do a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, snaking through that. Now full power to reclaim the height he's lost. But actually that power off means it's a smaller loop, which is good. And he's really floating it to get back to that right height. And then he's still inverted. He's got a nice half loop down, which he'll then half roll. And this one's got to be fast. He's got to have plenty of speed at the bottom here, inverted, because he goes up into a negative P loop. So he'll do a 3/4 roll, 3/4 rolls, push up, double roll at the top, and a 3/4 roll on the way out. So here he goes. That's the 3/4. Here's the 3 of 4, pushing around, double roll at the top, big push. He's keeping this really tight, which is good. Aircraft slows down right at the top, all the way down, 3/4 roll towards the judges, so he's going to come really close, but the Humpty will take him back again. So right above us, at the front of the box, and pulling back over, and then repositioning himself into the golden zone, spot on, and rolling left, pulling out, and then going into a stall turn almost immediately with a full flick on the way up. Got to finish exactly as he started. One flick, beautiful. Stall turn at the top, slightly bridged if you ask me. 2 of 2, 1, 2, clean line after, and then this figure of 8 infinity sign with a full roll and then a half neg on the 45. Quite tricky, so he's getting himself to the right place to do it. Quite far left. I think that would suggest that there is a problem. I think there is a problem. That may be that he forgot what the next figure was. He has not made some wing rocks. Just waiting for him to talk to the judges. Difficult to know what the issue is. Hopefully not a technical, but I suspect he forgot what he was supposed to be doing next. Couldn't read the sequence card quickly enough, but he's not made wing rocks, so according to the rules he's still being scored, but I think one assumes that he's wing rocked, and he will be coming in to start figure 12 again. No, he's having a think about it. He may have a G problem. We've not heard he's got a technical problem. He may just be taking his time, cooling himself down, and now he's getting ready to tip in. Yes, here he goes. There are the wing rocks. He'll start again on this big infinity figure of 8. He'll pull up. He'll do a full roll. No, he's doing figure 13. He skipped it out, doing figure 13, and now he's going to do the roller. Outside, outside, and now change direction, inside, inside, and now change direction again, outside, outside, and now change direction again, inside, inside. Honestly, if that doesn't mess with your head, I don't know what does, and he's done it beautifully. So, and the wing rocks to complete his sequence. So, it's a curate's egg, as we say in the UK, which means good in parts. So, some fantastic flying from Daniel, really crisp, tight in the box, and then a couple of moments where the brain just switches off momentarily, a little glitch. And that's all it takes for a figure to be blown. That three-quarter flick on figure 4 going the wrong way meant that he zeroed that, and then that kind of brain blank for figure 12, so that he ended up getting a 0 also for that figure 12, which is a very high K figure. That's a real shame there, because there's some excellent flying in the rest of the sequence. So that is the way it goes in unlimited aerobatics. There is it's a brutal sport. There's no forgiveness whatsoever. There's not much you can do. If the brain says no, that's it. You just have to fly through it. So he'll have zeroed 2 figures, one of which is a very high K figure, which will really damage the scores for this final sequence. So really, it's anybody's guess who is going to come out on top, because we've still got Sriel Talon to come in. So if he flies an absolute blinder, who knows who might take the Open title. So interesting times at this unlimited competition as we watch Daniel bring his 330 SC gently back to terra firma. And there is Sriel taking off in his extra 330 SC. Final pilot, final sequence, final part of the arresti part. So arresti is what we call this strict regimented precision flying, whereas what you will see later on will be freestyle, where anything is allowed within very broad rules, because it's about style and presence and smoke and music, whereas this is absolutely precision flying. Can you fly what's been written down on the sequence card exactly as prescribed? So this is the final flight for the unlimited category and for the contest as a whole. So Sriel, I think, may have it all to play for, because everybody's had different levels of success in their sequences to date. 4 sequences, 3 unknown sequences and 1 known sequence. Just to remind you that this sequence that Sriel is about to fly, he only saw last night. He's had to plan it on the ground, and now he's going to fly it for the very first time here today. Sriel lives in Luxembourg, but trains at Verdun in France. Seasoned unlimited competitor. Been to many World Aerobatic Championships and European Championships and Open Championships in other countries. Wonderful guy. Delighted to have him here flying with us. So and here are the wing rocks for Sriel. Coming in to give us this unlimited unknown sequence, starting with a big P-loop. And he's going to pull up 200 miles an hour, 220 miles an hour. He's going to pull up and do a half flick. Little bit of a wiggle on the half flick there. Pull over, an 8-point roll at the top. And pull around for a 1 3/4 and 1 1/4 roll the other way. 2 inverted, 1 3/4 and 1 1/4, and then push up to 45 from inverted, 1 1/4 roll and 2 of 8 the other way. 1 1/4, 2 of 8, very nice. And then pull down into a knife with a full negative flick. There it is, very nice. And then pull out, and then with speed enter into this diamond loop. So up 45 with 3, a 4, and then a 3/4 roll, 3/4 rolls, and then a 3/4 roll, and then pull round into the inverted climbing 45 section. Slow, long, maybe not long enough, and then full neg flick on the way down. That'll be a longer leg than the way up. He didn't wait long enough, and then the high speed section at the bottom, just a couple of seconds. So that probably won't be as good a shape as some of the others. And he now goes into the 1 1/4 roll into the tail slide. So he has to do this with the canopy down, so it needs to fall towards us as we see it. He's done that nicely, very nice. And then a 3/4 flick with a push out. He's gone the right way. Well done, Sriel. Now, this square loop with the double Ming vase. Pushing up, counting the right number of seconds before he pushes over the top, and then a half negative flick followed by a full half neg push down, and then a full positive flick. Very nicely done. Wait and then pull down to complete the box. Pull across, and now he has this linking figure where he can move himself around. So he is going to come towards, because he's quite far back. It's probably about half box, a little bit past half box. He'll just use this to move himself forward a little bit closer to the judges, into the what we call the golden zone. Exactly the right place. And then he'll be, there we go, quite a big looping section to move himself forward, and then a 1/4 roll, and then pulling inverted off the top and setting himself up for this down loop. He's going to do a loop going downwards with a 4-point roll, a sort of wiggly 4-point roll. If you look carefully, you'll see he's wiggling left and right in order to make this 4-point roll work. Very slow at the top, power right back, don't want to get too much speed, make a good shape, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, a little bit of a G stall there on that 4th quarter, and he's done that pretty nicely right up to the exact same height, and then he's got an easy half loop down to set himself up at high speed this time for an inverted P-loop, push P-loop as we call it. So he's coming down full throttle, half roll, and then 3/4, 3, 2, 3, and then push round, double roll at the top. He's making a nice big loop, double roll at the top, plenty of speed, and then double roll at the top, and then continuing the loop down, and then a 3/4 roll and pull out towards the judges for a close, but then he'll use this Humpty Bump to move back a little bit into the box, back into the golden zone. A bit close here, so he'll pull over the top and move himself back a little bit with a 1/4 roll to the left, to then bring him perfectly aligned for his next figure, which is a stall turn with a full flick on the way up. So a full vertical flick. He's got to end up exactly the way he's going now. Beautifully done, slightly squishy on the end. Stall turn. And then a simple 2 half rolls on the way down, and then he will go into this figure of 8 infinity maneuver, which starts with a full roll up to a 45, full roll, and then a half flick to inverted. Full roll, half flick. Beautifully done. Absolutely spot on there. And he's bang on axis. This is going well, this figure. Pulls it round back up to the 45 for a 1.5 roll. And then pulling it round, and then high speed at the bottom. He's making this big to get some of the box back, to get his positioning right. You can do 4 half rolls at high speed before he then pulls up. 2, 3, 4, simple pull up, half loop, and sets himself up for the 3/4 roller, the 360 roller, the outie, innie, 360 roller. So, assuming he's coming towards the judges, but we will see. Which way are you going to go, Sriel? Towards, that's out one section, Second half, he's slightly behind. 1, 2, he's getting himself behind. He's caught up a little bit, and now he's going to go out again, change direction. 1, 2, can he make it all the way around? He should be 270 at this point. He's still slightly behind and in. Big push, the roll rate slowed down, you can always tell, and to get him back on axis for the end, and there are the wing rocks. So got a little bit behind in that 360 roller, but it was all there. Really quite a good sequence. I didn't spot any hard zeros, but very good job, Sriel. So that has thrown the cat amongst the pigeons. So Chris had a very good flight, Sriel had a very good flight, Igoris had a tech problem, and Daniel had a brain bubble. So we shall see what that does to the scores. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Aresti competition, of the formal competition, and Sriel is doing a characteristically subtle final landing, side-slipping all the way around the corner. Non-standard joining procedure for anyone who's learning to fly. That is not the way you do it unless you're an unlimited world-class pilot. Bringing it in perfectly, 75 knots, on axis, gently onto the tarmac. A man who is in control of his machine. Well, that is the end of the Aresti competition. So the nationals part and the formal precision flying part of the contest is over. It's for the judges and the scoring team now to check their numbers, and later on at 5 o'clock we will be doing the freestyle, and by the end of today we will know who our national champions are. But as far as the flying today is concerned, we are now taking a break for 3 hours and moving the judging position and setting ourselves up for the freestyle contest. Thank you very much. Just before we go, we might have some scores coming through. So, interestingly, well, it looks like from the scores of that contest, of that sequence, that Chris Brooke came out on top. So the British pilot did a great job. I thought he was flying really well today, and he has done it for that sequence. Sriel, who we just saw fly, was second, and then Daniel Genev came in third with those 2 hard zeros. Really, there's not much you can do as a pilot. However well you fly in the rest of the sequence, the 2 hard zeros will destroy your scores. So actually Sriel and Chris did a very good job on a very demanding, tough sequence, but Chris came out on top on that sequence. So and unfortunately Igoris will not have scored with his tech issue unless he can mend his aircraft, and then he has a chance, but it sounds as though he is not able to do that. So it's anybody's guess who has come out on top after that. We shall see. Thank you very much.
Brought to you by Tele2 IoT.